Hello, and welcome to your weekly astrological transits, your astrology update on the mundane weather, astrology weather. So, we've had this cool grand trine happening for the last few days, and we're just kind of switching around as we have more planets sort of moving in and out of it. The moon will definitely, but let's just look at this here. We can see that Saturn and Jupiter are making one leg of this trine. And then we've had the sun. Um, Yesterday was exact. You can see we're at 25 degrees. Look at that one first, 25, 25, 25. So yesterday you can see the sun is exact. It's still there and it's just starting to separate. But you can see that the moon and will just sweep into this formation. And then also Mercury, its retrograde, will sweep into this formation. So this is very interesting water trine. Um, what does it mean? How does it affect us? Right in the middle of so many retrograde planet energies, especially the outer planets, except for Pluto is direct. So outer planet energies, even they're outer, it's like more things are affecting us from the outside. And if they're retrograde, then it's more assimilation on our part. Um, So we have some of the big players, retrograde. We've got Saturn there, we've got Jupiter there. So they're both hitting into this trine, being retrograde motion. So maybe it's a return, what do their signs mean? We have, Cancer. Jupiter is exalted, loves to be in Cancer. Cancer is, the home, the family. Now retrograde, maybe we're figuring out how to redo parts of our home and family. Saturn limitation, restriction, boundaries, borders. It could be redefining borders, redefining boundaries on all levels. And we can see this playing out in the world big time. And then we have a couple of interesting things. I mean, you can go on for a long time about any one of these things, but just to remind you where we're at, we're going to have this trine here a little bit, for a little while. And then again with the inner planets here moving through this spot in Scorpio, we're going to have that activation. So it's making us maybe deeply look at these things. And it's water, it's emotional, it's how we feel. And now with our, coming into our new moon in Scorpio, in about a day and a half is definitely going to rake this up. And what's going to be interesting when I get to it, you'll see that Mercury will come right between the moon and the sun for a minute or moment, before the sun and before the moon actually conjuncts with the sun. So a little bit just background on astronomy. Every new moon is a conjunction with the sun. It's when they are together, and that's why we don't see it. And the full moon is opposite of the sun. So interesting thing to think about. The new moon will be the same sign as the sun almost all the time, unless it's just one of them really, really, really weird things. Um, when it's just like a second apart, but I can't think of any times with that. But anyway, it'll be the same sign as the sun. And interesting this month, we have the sun. Well, let me back up. New moons are like new beginnings. It's like we start new things again. And this one being at the end of the sign is going to feel kind of odd. We'll be wanting to move sort of into that Sagittarian energy, which the sun does, in a few days. But yet the moon, having made the new moon, with that conjunction to the sun at the end of Scorpio, is like the feeling that it's like maybe we're not done with certain things yet. We're ending, we're beginning this phase with an ending. The sun is going to move on. So then our emotions, our feelings, the moon side with this starting this new moon phase. Um, this is, our Scorpio moon phase. This is our Scorpio new moon of the year. We only get one, right, as we go through the seasons. So, and then in 2 weeks, we'll have the next sun sign. The sun will have entered Sagittarius, and then the full moon will be opposite of that in Gemini. So let me just show you something real quick. Block this out. Oh, before I move there, couple of these other things, we have a sextile here at the 29 degrees, which I will get back to because 29 degrees we know is a critical degree, and several things will be right there, right at that. Making this, you'll see Mercury is going to be, right through that 29 degrees, and it's going to be part of this little complex, which we'll see more in a moment. But let's go over and then just go back. Actually, let me go forward a couple weeks and we'll see the moon. I just got to go up ahead a day. I just want you to see this is cool. There. Okay, so we see now the sun has moved into Sag, and then when the moon comes around, see it's opposite of the sun. So we're looking at December 4th. This will be our full moon here. Then look at how everything by then, except Mercury is direct now that, 2 weeks, and it won't be in Sag yet, but look at we have, several of the other planets. Of course, the sun, Mars, and there is already, then Venus moves there. Okay, so let us go back to today. It's funny to go backward and forward in time. I love it. Okay, so back to today. So coming off that big water trine, but yet it's still in effect, and then we're going to have the moon sweeping through there. All of this heavy, kind of intense scorpionic energy. Um, Sun, Venus, not Venus's favorite place, right? It's opposite of one of her home places, opposite of Taurus. So this is not a good, Venus feels uncomfortable. Maybe looking at your type of your money, it's not quite going how you want. Your things, it's like maybe you're getting some things, but it's not quite how you want it or how you have, you've got to work at it, you got to fit it in, you've got to chip it away a little bit. There's a little price to pay kind of energy with this scorpionic area. So that being said, this week, we've got the decreasing moon until we get to the new moon, and then we start the increasing again. So it's like starting that cycle, um, really kind of maybe coming into the fall in this time of year, at least Northern Hemisphere, coming into that fall season, really starting to embrace moving into that energy. All right, so that's the big part. Okay, so we're moving this week, of our moons we're into that higher part of the chart. We're into that it'd be the third and starting into the fourth quadrant because we're starting with the moon in in Scorpio, which is the high part of the chart, and then it moves into Sag and then Capricorn. So we're going to be up in these upper areas, and then by the next week we'll be in the very beginning, uh, ending Capricorn and coming into Aquarius. So we're into the switch over from so much about others into I know best for others, instead of you're going to kind of release being so entangled, which is the scorpionic energy, which is this fixed, clinging energy to change, to release, this is the week of moving beyond that, is I think coming into this new moon really investigating those things we want. Do we really want them? How do we want them? From relationships to anything that you're desiring in the physical world. All right. And then that kind of leads us into the spiritual side of things. And let's just go to, well, look how fast that moves. We're going to just go by hours a little bit. Because look at Mercury. Mercury here is going, it's retrograde. It's going to be about down one more hour, right about there. So late tonight on East Coast time, we see Mercury changing signs. It's going back into Scorpio. So now we've got this group here, all the inner planets, except for Mars, you know, um, I should say all of the inner planets plus the sun and moon are all in this scorpionic quadruplicy or quintuplets, and we got four energies here. And you can see the moon is going to conjunct Venus before it hits the sun, before it conjuncts the sun and makes the new moon. All right, so this is kind of intense energy. So I think this is why I wanted to point this out. And let's just bring this around. We can see how quickly now Mercury is starting to pick up speed. All right, so things should be full Mercury retrograde. Things should be screwing up royally about now and hitting the wall and having all of our types of communication issues and glitches and things like that. So uh, that being said, it will change. This will pass too. So as we're coming into Wednesday, um, we've got okay, here's the 29 is what I was going to show you. So we've got the Mercury now at the end of the sign. It backed into the end of Scorpio, and then it's going to let's get a different color. So we've got Mercury over here, pardon my line, going over to quincunxing over to Uranus. So here's, where it kind of just doesn't fit, right? I'm sorry, it's trining over to Uranus. We didn't get to the other one yet. So this one is the water area. Here we go. I should have kept it blue. Anyway, so we've got Mercury coming back into this trine, you know, this water trine that we've set up, and then here's what I was looking for. There we go. There. Okay, so here now we've got our opposition, and then we've got our trine, and this is not looking good. I don't like these colors. We'll do it better. All right. It just looks funny. Okay, here we go. There it is. And then, see, this is kind of an odd triangle. All right, so here we've got what is it called? A right triangle. So we've got no, not exact. Would it be? I'm not sure. Anyway, we've got our sextile down here because we're seeing Neptune would be the exact going over to the 29. I drew it just a little off here. Yeah. But this whole energy of this water energy and Saturn and Neptune are kind of bound right now. They're separating a little bit. They're 4 degrees apart, and then we're going to have the change, and then they'll come together again. So we're getting a little bit of difference in here. So we have this Neptune, water, feminine. Uranus moved back into Taurus, Earth, feminine. And then we have the trine and the opposition over to Mercury. And you can see it's also going to be in the sun as well, because the sun is going to be moving into this spot where Mercury is going to pass. And then Venus, well, then the moon will go over here, and then Venus will go over this apex. Let's just call this the apex. It's kind of this funneling down because these two down here are making that sextile. So we have Saturn and Uranus back to making that sextile, like they have been for a while before they changed signs. So we're getting that um maybe redoing of structure, maybe, still breaking down things that aren't working and getting rid of stuff. We have that boundaries being dissolved and being broken down, Saturn and Pisces, and then the wanting to make it solid, wanting to make it real, wanting to have some spontaneous or spontaneity within that Uranus, wanting to ground it suddenly. Taurus, um, starting to make, Mercury is going to make that first conversation with those. So maybe, so we have Mercury the in retrograde, so again, redoing the communications, redoing the structure. Okay, so that one will move on. And then the sun will move here in a couple of days. So it'll go 20. It is already in orb. So then we have the sun, the ego, deep dive, looking at ourselves, looking at how we fit into things, looking how we might need to restructure our inner emotions, our compassion, our the way we help others without losing our temper and losing our cool or getting off or getting impatient. Um, Sun also to Uranus, it's like a sudden insight, a different way to handle it. Moon going over it all, right, all kind of at the same time. Let's just let me get rid of my marks here. Um, Creating this whole inner world, with the moon being there, it's going to make us have to deal with this, being in emotional water signs, we've got to deal with it. So look here, I got to do by hours. Um, just because it goes right in there. All right, so keep your eye on Sun, Moon, and Mercury. So Mercury now here's 28 degrees, Sun is 28 degrees, and then they'll switch places, because Mercury's retro. So watch, just keep your eye on that right there, almost. Okay, so Mercury was just there. Okay, so Mercury now is in the middle here. The Moon is gone over, so it's squishing this kind of an energy. We've got the Mercury in between the lights, the sun and the moon. So this can be really interesting coming into Thursday, as just we just passed the new moon here. Do there. It's like 28 degrees. Look at all of that right there. So the shot I want to show you are all at 28 degrees. And then as the moon just passes, right? The moon is passing over, and then Mercury will go right in between there. There it is, right that. So interesting energy. Thursday, this is real early in the morning, East Coast, be what around midnight, 12:30 West Coast, but the energy's still in effect. Still in effect. Okay, so then the moon moves into Sag, should feel different, as we get into Thursday morning. And then the moon, as it moves on through Sag, joins over to Mars. Let me just get on over here so we can see it better. Okay, so we can see here Thursday. Now let me get back to our days. So we can see by Thursday, it's going to be kind of, I think, a little intense. There's a lot of this energies, deep diving into stuff. So expect that. All right, what else is going on here? So this is a big deal. Okay, Thursday. Yeah, we talked to you about that one. And then here the sun and moon. Okay, so there's a change. So these two are going to change. Oh, anything that is now changing signs right away. So let's go look at the moon again. Oops. All right. Anyway, you can see it's going to, at 1 degree, like let's look at the moon here in Sag. Um, it's going to be 2 signs away from Pluto. So it's going to make a conversation with Pluto. Here we're going to have a sextile. So we're going to have some deep dives, right? Emotional depth, but we've got a little brevity with the moon and Sag a little bit. Maybe it's like something that you thought all along, something that gets confirmed maybe on something all along. And then again, we've got this end of sign, 29 degrees and then 1 degree. So right at the very end, so look at things in your chart that are, 28, 29 degrees, 0, 1, 2. They'll be kind of more affected by some of these energies here. All right. So this is kind of intense, and then we already talked about the new moon, how it's like it's lingering. This scorpionic energy is like, okay, we've got to just finish up the deep dive, the deep investigation when it kind of makes sense because we're into the Mercury retrograde. So it's like putting that energy to redo stuff, deep dive, get in, redo, shadow work, your psyche, cleaning up stuff in the midst of your inner self that you don't need anymore, things that's not serving you. And this is coming up again and again, many different ways for us. All right. Yeah, we talked about Mercury. Yeah, when Mercury was like up, right before Mercury changed signs, it was making that opposition again to Uranus. We talked about that. All right, new moon. A lot of moon aspects, of course. They come and go. Some days it's just so full of so many emotional things. Like Thursday, there's like the moon is making lots of aspects. But then we also have this Uranus and Neptune, right there at the 29. They're just riding right there. Um, so there we got our outer planets, both retrograde, both in feminine signs, both at the end, at the anorexic degree, anorectic degree, that harsh, because it's a strange place. It wants to be the next. So it's kind of unstable energy. And it's an unstable, in Neptune in a mutable sign. And then Uranus is wanting to be kind of unstable anyway, but it's in a solid sign. So this is kind of interesting. And it's just going to ride there a little bit. We have that sextile. It's sextile is not like that great unless kind of activated or part of something else. So I think this is kind of a slightly unstable, it's like something gently propping something up until maybe it gets fixed or until the intention can get to it. So that's kind of how I want to view that. And so what is that? Neptune into your psyche, into the invisible, into your unconscious, or maybe why you do things the way you do. Maybe becoming aware more of why you do things the way you do and how you are. A lot of times, as we grow, we become more self-aware and it's like, really? I do that? I didn't know. Or I affect you like that? Oh, that's discovering some of that. And then Uranus is like, well, it's got a purpose. It's a grounding, but it can change. Is it serve me anymore? Is this mine? Do I need this? Who's it belong to? Okay, if it's somebody I think of, send it back. And if it's mine, what is its positive purpose? Dealing with this type of energy. A lot of that this week. A lot of that energy is moving around. Okay, coming into Friday, it's like, yay, as Moon is like now happily in Sag. Moon goes over Mars Thursday. Yeah, look, in the whole day, it's going to right over it. Thursday into Friday, Moon going over Mars. So I think it'll be kind of high spirited. I think it'll feel good. It'll feel good to get some of that fire upward moving energy because even though the trines are nice, it can get a bit maudlin, a bit dramatic, a bit sticky, a bit heavy, emotionally laden. It's like, okay, enough, enough. How many times do I got to say I'm sorry? How much do I got to redo this? Like, okay, come on. So I think the moon here will really lighten that up, and then give some energy. So if you can put off stuff or maybe have fun later in the week, it'll probably be better, more fun. Note to self. Thursday on, right? Okay. Um, let's see what else on Friday. Sun coming over here now. Okay, that's it. The sun coming into now. Here we go. More into this 29-degree stuff we got. Um, let's get the line. Okay, so we've got our um trine. I said the sun, Mercury was there. Now the sun is going to be there. And then here we got this, right? And then Venus will come into the spot too. So we're going to have this same kind of energy, with the sun. That's what we just talked about. All right. So this could be like your ego now with the sun there. Yep. All right, moving on. And Saturday, is it Saturday or is it late Friday? Depends on, it's probably late Friday, early Saturday, depending on where you are. We have the sun moving into Sag. So that will reinforce that feel good type of energy into the early part of the weekend because moon is still there. It's at the end of that now, right? Look at that. It's got, we got this 29 thing going on. But here it's not quite so nice. This is a more odd kind of configuration. And let me just draw it out just because we got these 29-degree things going on all week here. All right. So here's this one. Get the line. All right. So we've got now the water sign to a fire sign, and this is square because we got a mutable to mutable, right? It was a trine. That was the 120 make, go to the next like minus 30, so that's 90. And then we still have this. This is our sextile. And then we've got this one. So, this is the 150. This is the inconjunct, right? Because if it were the next one over, it would be the opposition. So we've got this little tense thing in coming up Saturday. Just a little, oddity, a square and an inconjunct. Ew. So there could be just a little like over the top, because Sag Moon, Sag energy, and then the sun jumps in here. It can just get a little over the top. Let's just put it that way. So just be of being, you know, um, be careful of having tequila and dancing on the tables or anything quite like that. So watch this interesting, these 29 degrees energies that we have. We got all these planets moving through different phases of this and making different angles to our 29s. And here we got the moon sweeping through. That's the last one. And then moving on, let's see anything else on Saturday. Um, um, Oh, yeah, of course, but of course. Let's just get another color. let's do that one. Okay, so um Mercury. So we got the Mercury over to Saturn. So here we have our Mercury now is backing into the spot where we've had some of the other planets. We had the sun this week and then the moon, right? Um, so here we got a trine because there's water, water, and you can see that Venus is getting ready to be in this spot in a few days, right? She's moving forward. So that's going to be there. And then we have, Saturn going over to Jupiter and Jupiter back to over here. So we've got an interesting format. All right. So here's our trine over here to, it'll be Mercury and Venus over to Saturn. So let's just talk about that real quick, unpack that part. So Saturn, again, this is our boundaries. And then in Pisces, we got dissolving. You just got to kind of think of a couple keywords: dissolving boundaries, dissolving borders, restructuring, um, be in there. Okay. And then what is it that it's in conversation with Mercury? So plans of revisiting borders, revisiting boundaries, restructuring things, restructuring that unknown, putting some pathways in. And then Venus there, it's like, well, since I got to be here and I know I'm almost done, moving through this, might as well put some niceties in it, maybe, or just agree to just get in and get your hands dirty, kind of. It's just like, okay, might as well do it. Just get it done. And it dovetails with being over here as part of the trine. So we got trine energy, trine energy, trine energy. We've got this other grand trine coming around. We've had this active all week, with different planets as part of this grand trine. Water, water, water. So back to the emotional, it's like can't quite get away from it this week. We've got a theme of straightening some of the stuff out. Now the sun has moved on. I mean, the moon has moved on, but yet we've got, the sun has just finished getting out of here, but then, Mercury and Venus. So it's communicating your inner feelings, communicating your feelings to yourself, your wants and desire, maybe voicing your wants and desires, maybe doing it in an in a structured emotional way, um, restructuring your emotional and communication patterns. How can you tell people your needs? How can you share your needs? How can you facilitate other people's needs? So this is our sort of more of our theme with this week. We've kind of had it in many different ways and slices and way we look at it. It's like the same on many levels. So I think that is our heavy theme. All right. Anything else on Saturday? Moon moves into, finishes up in Sag, and then we move on into Moon in Capricorn. So coming into Sunday, um, the Sun will sextile Pluto as soon as again Sun moves into the new sign. Sun changes signs into Sag, and then here it is making this is masculine energy outward over to Pluto. So it's ready to deep dive maybe now. It's like, okay, let's get on with this stuff. Let's shine our inner light and maybe have it. We can get the bigger picture of things from a different viewpoint. From a higher elevated point of view, we can see what really needs to be done. And then the moon in Capricorn can give us that want for structure, that want to be logical and pragmatic and steady and, determined to get through that. All right. Anything else here on Sunday? Those are the big things. And then moving into Monday, um, yeah, we've still got that. So here's our conjunction with Venus and Mercury right there. So here's that where the depth part comes. We've got a little bit now. Venus has got a little bit more to go, a little bit more to communicate. And it's better to communicate these feelings. Maybe it's hard. Maybe, t people have a tendency to be vengeful or mean or um, vindictive with some of this type of energy. So just watch that reaction within yourself and within other people. Um, but it could be also geared toward healing, maybe looking at things at a deeper level to do deeper healing. We have We have this Piscean compassion. We have the deep, the depth, of Scorpio. We have the um, emphasis on home and family, inner home, inner family, your home, your borders, your house, your gate, your door, all that kind of thing with Jupiter here. So it's still, reinforcing this energy. And it's the trine is still there and it kind of loosens and another planet moves in or out. So this is a big theme of what we've got going on this week. Interesting week. Um, we're still not out of the woods yet on certain things, but I like that this trine energy is definitely maybe making it easier to be compassionate, to think beyond yourself, to look inside of yourself and have compassion for yourself as well. All right, so I think that is it for this week. Again, the phases, of the moon where we're moving to, we're on the upper part of the chart. What I mean by that is the signs of Scorpio, Sagittarius, um, Capricorn, and then by Tuesday we'll be over into Aquarius, and the moon will go over Pluto. So by next week, we've got that is all this upper part of the chart here. So this is all visible, this is all seen, this is all how people see us. This is the elevated I know best, and we're switching from the right side of things, Scorpio and Sag, to the left side, So we're going from others and our involvement with others to the higher objective, the higher self, the all-knowing experts, coming up into this third quadrant and this fourth hemisphere. Okay. Um, Anything else about that? So, we get these different moon phases of parts of the chart each week as we, have the week. Um, because we have we got the half moon, the new moon, the half moon, the full moon, the half moon, the new moon, the half moon, the full moon as we trek around the wheel. So takeaways from today, new moon, sun and moon are conjunct and it will be in the same sign as the sun. Okay, so if you think what sun sign are we in? Okay, so this week right now the sun is still in Scorpio. So the moon will be right there with it. So the moon will be in Scorpio. So it is a new moon in Scorpio. And then if you're wondering what the full moon is, it's always opposite of the sun sign. So you think whatever, so next month or the next full moon in 2 weeks, we're going to have the new moon in a couple days. So 2 weeks from now, in like a day, right? Just anyway, 2 weeks from now, the sun will be in Sag. So you think, okay, the sun is in Sag. The full moon will be opposite Sag. What's opposite Sag? Gemini. Yep, correct. Gemini. So that will be the full moon. So it's opposite. So a little, I mean, we kind of know these things, but sometimes you may not in your head, and then you can see that. And then one other thing, remember this part of the chart right over here, right here on this side over here, this is your horizon line, and this is east. Um, this is where things rise, okay? And then this is west over on this side. This is where things set. And you know that. But to see it flat out and to just understand it, this is what we're doing. We see like right now, this is set for like 5:30 in the afternoon, and we can see that the sun is going to go down. And if I hit this by hours, again, you'll see the sun go beneath the horizon now, right? So it's like in about an hour, it's going to be dark because we're at this, late November time of year. And of course, this is East Coast time, but you'll still see that the sun is going down here. And then if I keep going, you can go in the morning and you see like Mercury is going to be the first to rise, and then Venus, and then the sun, and then there's Mars, right? And then they go around. Okay, just a little refresher there. Thank you for listening. We will see you all back next week. Bye for now.